but let me just bring you back. Reason why we're having this conversation is on the EIU report, and you have excerpts of that on your screens once more, indicating the decision, and the projection we're getting through from EIU, indicating that the next parliamentary and presidential elections are due in 2024, and that under the constitutionally mandated term limits, the president, which is President Kwadwo, cannot run for a third term. That we know for a fact. The former president, John Mahama, is actually reported to be considering running again, but the EIU is expecting that the opposition National Democratic Congress will try to revitalize its prospects with a fresh candidate. So that's the projection, and that's why there are different legs to this conversation. Let's have that now. In fact, there are calls within the National Democratic Congress at this moment calling for a renewed leadership, and not necessarily on the need for the party to go once more with its former or previous presidential candidate, John Mahama. So is the time now to have a new leadership for the NDC? Joining me this time round in studio is one man who once declared that he was going to run for the presidential slot of the National Democratic Congress. He's a lawyer by profession. Elevy is joining us now. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah.
I recall in 2018 or 2019, you issued a statement telling the people of Ghana that at the right time, you would lead the NDC at God's chosen time. I recall those were excerpts of the statement that you indicated.
Yes.
And many are asking the question, now that the EIU report is out and the projection is that try and find a new leadership for the NDC.
Yes.
Is this the time for you? Is this a time for a new leadership to emerge in the NDC? And if that has to happen, would it have to be Elevy Abamava?
Well, thank you for having me. Right. And I will say that on a personal level, that decision has not been reached yet. And generally, as to whether the NDC needs a fresh candidate or not, it's also a matter that has to be dealt with by the rank and file. The delegates of the party will have to decide. But definitely, it's yet another time for that process to begin, for the democratic processes to be put in place, for everybody to show what they
can offer the NDC. We'll talk about the reorganization process of the National Democratic Congress soon, but Council, just hold on for me briefly. I understand that Evans Nemako is back this time around on the telephone lines. So Evans, you're making the point about your research and what it is that the NPP has. What data do you have backing your claims that whoever would emerge to lead the NPP will win the 2024 elections? Hello, Evans?
Yes.
Yes, I was asking about the data. What data do you have supporting the claims that you're making?
Oh, well, thank you very much. Sorry, I lost you. That some people are trying to corrupt the line or whatever. But what I'm saying is that it is not for me at this stage to lay our arsenal on how we're winning the 2024 election on the table now. When we get to that bridge, we'll cross. But what is for me insightful is that the report, even though says that the NDC could win if they change Mr. Mahama, it's not conclusive. They didn't tell us whether it will be Owusu and Estedu Nketiaseke, or it will be Kwabena, or it will be Kwadwo.
But the word in the report says revitalize. It did not say that if John Mahama is not on that ticket or is on the ticket, the NDC will not win the elections. That's not what's within the report.
That's what I'm saying, that as we speak, today is 19th April. Okay, and we are voting in December 7, 2024. It's a long way to go. And I also not run away from the fact that there are some complaints by some Ghanaians, because it's not been easy anywhere. And it is a world all over phenomenon. And I'm saying that as a government and as a party, we keep on working to ensure that we are able to overcome the challenge. Except the doomsayers who do not wish Ghana war. If not, the government is making strides to ensure that we overcome this challenge. If we cast our minds back just about a month or so ago, we saw how prices of fuel were going up, same as the dollar rate. But as we speak, I think you can attest to the fact that it's been stabilized a bit. And so the government must keep on working to alleviate the challenges the good people of Ghana are going through. Mind you, we are not having what we used to have some time ago as in power crisis. I hope you can attest to that. Our junior brothers and sisters who are the senior high school are still going to school. Definitely our teachers are being paid. All bills are being paid by government. That's the responsibility of government. So irrespective of the challenges, the difficulties, those things must be done. And the government is religiously getting that done. I'm not saying that we should be applauding.
Right.
I'm saying that we should be able to work hand in hand so we come out of this quagmire.
Okay, so you feel that there's a bigger challenge beyond the factors that are induced locally. But as we wrap up on this conversation, what's your take on this? Some experts feel that you overpromised in the 2020 election and also the 2016 election, the reason for which Ghanaians are getting dissatisfied with the NPP. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think that around 2016, 2020, the circumstances call for the government to run with that level of speed, which is still pursuing. And so, if you want to look at the issues and you run away from the fact that the external factors do influence how our domestic arrangements are run, then you will not be objective. Then you will not be realistic. In this globalized world, whatever happens to one nation or the other in other parts of the world will have ripple effects. And so, yes, the government has put in place mechanisms to ensure that we run at that pace. And that was exactly what was happening to us until we were hit with COVID. And you're telling me that it did not affect our economy? And you are telling me that what is happening between Russia and Ukraine is not affecting economies of the world? Then I'm surprised. So I'm saying that, yes, I'm not saying that there are no challenges. There are. That is why day in, day out, the government has been on its feet to ensure that as good people of Ghana, we are able to get the best under the circumstances. So the government will continue to work. The EIU report did not give the NDC clean slate. It gave them a certain condition. I'm saying that even that, when you've undertaken a research and you've used a sample size, it could make a story. But the bigger sample size will be the masses who will decide come December 7, 2024. And I can assure you, the good people of Ghana will give the mandate once again to the new patriotic party.
All right then. We'll see about that. Evans Nimako is Director of Elections for the New Patriotic Party. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Ellie is also in studio with us. So you've heard Evans Nimako on that. He says that, well, it's not a straight deal for the NDC. This is the time for you to also work on the conditions that has been stated in the report. And you are saying all of this borders on the leadership of the NDC. Why?
Well, I don't recall saying that it borders on the leadership.
But the executives, the national executives must
yes, but you know,
some actions.
There is always work to do in every election cycle. You know, so what I expect, you know, objectively, is for everybody, you know, in charge who has been given some responsibility to bring the party back to power to be at their best. You know, there is no room for complacency anymore, and the expectations of the rank and file are very high.
Right.
So I would not say anything is a foregone conclusion. I expect hard work, I expect dedication and commitment from everybody.
What do you see to be the chances of John Mahama if he's giving you the opportunity to run in the 2024 elections? The report is saying you need to revitalize your position, and that's what the EIU is saying. it appears that Ghanaians are getting used to this phase, and there may be a need for a new leadership to emerge.
The EIU report says they expect the NDC to put measures in place, you know, to get a fresh candidate so that they can revitalize the base and all that. But I think that if you test the pulse of the party, you know, there is the overwhelming consensus that we should maintain, you know, the current flag bearer that we have. Of course, people have also...
And this is a general consensus within the National Democratic Congress, the rank and file. It's a sense that you get from across.
That's the sense, but there is no scientific, or should I say, research to back that yet. You know, and one thing I also want to address is the fact that people say that this is not a time for a fresh candidate. Bill Clinton was a fresh candidate. You know, George Bush himself was a fresh candidate. Obama was a fresh candidate. So if you keep on saying that a fresh candidate cannot take us to the promised land, then that is a false start. You know, but that is not to say that somebody who we have tried before and has taken us to battle and won us the battle before should also not have the chance to prove that he can do better or solve whatever problems the Ghanaians.
So if I get the point you're making, you're saying that, well, John Mahama is a good candidate. He could take us there, but we equally stand a better chance if we go with a fresh candidate as the national.
Everybody has a chance, you know. So,
but it's not as simple as that. It's a matter of having the connection and the following in the NDC now.
Very true.
I guess the main man for you now is JM, but you are saying you have a better chance if you bring a new candidate.
No, until you win.
Right.
You know, so the question is, who is able to win? The internal, what should I say,
elections,
right. Yes. So you can point out all the wrongs, you can point out all the things that needs to be done, but putting moral issues and issues of effort and everything aside, do you have the ability to take power? That is it.
You feel that's where the shortfall of the former president is? He's not able to win the election?
That's not the person I'm even talking about. I'm talking about, you know, amongst
yeah, but you know that
the internal
I perfectly agree. Yeah, I perfectly
agree. The internal suitors.
Yeah, right.
Those who want to come up like me and the others. Now, when you test the pulse of the NDC,
right,
is it possible for us to take power?
That's a bigger question out there.
So,
and you're telling us that if you look at the NDC now, the general sense you get is that there's a lot of people out there rooting for the former president to go again and to run for the NDC, but it's a question of who wins power for the NDC. That's the point you're making. And I'm asking that going into the 2024 elections, do you see John Mahama making it if he emerges as the winner of the internal primaries?
Well, there's the possibility because we improved on the results that we had in 2016. And we look at the numbers in Parliament now, it attests to the work that the whole party did. So if we are able to rally behind whoever comes, you know, I think we will win.
So your concern is about whoever comes, and that's the operative word you're using. It appears that you're of the opinion and persuasion that, for instance, let's put lawyer Elevy in that position right now. The NDC still holds a chance of winning the 2024 elections.
Oh yes.
Is it the case with you particularly? What would you bring on board if the NDC, for instance, gives you the chance to run?
Well, we all have our own qualities.
Right.
And
how different will you be, for instance, from John Mahama, who we know has been a former president? How different? What would you be bringing on the table generally?
I don't want to get into that because I've not made that decision yet. Yeah, exactly.
You're still running away from
no, I'm not running.
You may run anyway. Because
I've not made that decision yet.
Anyway.
And you also recall that when I did run, I finally issued a statement supporting
John Mahama.
Right. And I want to stick to that for now unless and until I change my mind. So I don't want to be drawn into an argument of whether I am better than him or somebody is better than him. You know, definitely no matter the head start he may have, because he tasted power before, the democratic process is still going to go on, and people are going to put forward what they can do. And if at the end of the day there is an upset, there is an upset. But I don't want us to discount the fact that people should also come on board and share their ideas. At the end of the day, we can put together whatever comes and give it to whoever emerges, so that we can all come.
I'm glad that you're saying it's about sharing ideas. For instance, we've seen a name out there already. Former Finance Minister Dr. Kwadwo is already out there. He's supporting the political party. He believes that there's a need for a new leadership, and not just in the NDC, but also across the country. For instance, if you have Dr. Dufour and you have John Mahama, who would you go for?
I wouldn't make any choice as to who I should go for at this moment, because I mean, Dr. Dufour himself has not said that he is going to run. All that he is doing, according to him, is to help in the rebuilding of the party. So I think it's an effort that we all should get involved in. President Mahama is also doing his bit, and we are all involved, and therefore, at the end of the day, when people are ready and they want to stick their neck out and say that this is what they want to do, we will see.
You don't feel he stands a good chance? If
it's not the time to make that judgment. I don't want to make that judgment, because the person we are talking about himself.
Are we not being evasive on the subject matter, particularly when we know that he started a project that would affect, for instance, 275 constituencies of the National Democratic Congress?
It's good. It's laudable.
The Ahunto project, I'm sure you've heard that.
Yes, but if that is what he is doing and that will win him the power, I cannot step in and say that he shouldn't be declared the winner. You understand? It's something he's doing, and until he says that he is going to run, I don't think I should get ahead of him, because he hasn't briefed me on his strategy and whatever he's doing. So I think we should all keep an open mind and see what happens.
What do you feel is the problem of the NDC now, and what immediate problems do you need to check within the party if indeed you're to win the 2024 election?
I think leadership has to reconcile, the strategy they have with the expectations of the rank and file. For now, I believe that the rank and file expect that we should be stronger in parliament, and we should be stronger in opposition. Give the government a bit of a tough time, but we are not seeing that. And I am actually somebody who thinks that we should be stronger in opposition, so that we can show that when we come to power, all the wrongs that we are complaining about, we are able to solve them.
Your leadership in Parliament is not doing a good job, you feel so?
Well, I'm not in Parliament, and they do what they are doing. They may say they are doing their best, but we can only judge them based on the results. And
for you don't see the results, really?
I don't see it.
That's basically questioning, for instance, the leadership of Haruna Iddrisu and those who are in Parliament. That has come up before. I'm sure that you've heard of the internal wrangling between your communications officer when some bills were being considered, and how he feels that the leadership in Parliament is not complementing the works of the main leadership of the party itself. How do you fix that problem, and what's the way out of that?
So you can see that I'm not alone in that line of thinking. If the communication officer, who is supposed to be closer than closer to the members of Parliament than I am, is also making such statement, even though it was a bit of an outburst.
Right.
You could see that there are concerns, and these concerns should not lead to petty quarrels. It should rather lead to consensus building amongst ourselves. We should discuss more the issues and approach matters, a bit more technically.
On which national issue did the leadership of the minority in Parliament fail to meet your expectations, really?
Oh, I mean, for example, if you talk about the numbers that we have, I expected more horse trading, and the appointments that were made, the MPP did not have to give anything.
Right.
We didn't take anything from them. We just approved. And the budget also,
Right.
the Elevy, we opposed, but much of it started from the activists on social media. And I feel that if the parliamentarians eventually got into the mood, it was because of the pulse of the rank and file, and we are talking about leadership. So they should be ahead of the rank and file.
Right, so it wasn't forceful. What were you expecting the opposition to be to the subject, for instance, of the e-levy?
No, we rejected it. We advocated for its rejection because we felt that the government had so much, and all that has been laid out. But you're saying you don't like the strategy of the minority, the way they've gone in terms of their opposition towards the e-levy. That's what you're saying. But I'm asking what was wrong with the opposition. Some say they staged the walkout, and then now they are in court. Is it for you? Is it a feasible approach? The walkouts shouldn't have happened. I believe that they should have stayed, and if they lost the vote, the Ghanaians will know that they did their best. They were sincere, and they lost their vote. But to walk out meant that we left I would say the midfield for the government side to do whatever they want. So the
change in leadership will help address the problems that you're seeing with the leadership of the minority in parliament.
It's about results, and if the people we have there will not get there's the results, why not?
Let's talk about the chances of the case that is in the courts right now about the e-levy. There's a case being made, for instance, being spearheaded by the Honorable Mahama Yariga and others, asking the Supreme Court, first of all, to grant the stay of execution. And then we also know that there is a concern about the e-levy itself. So hold on with the rollout of the implementation of the e-levy. And then there's the substantive case about the decision that was taken on the floor of Parliament. You are a lawyer yourself. Assessing the case that your members of Parliament are making, do you see some success at the end of the day?
Well, it's basically about, when you look at the rates, the claim is basically about the lack of quorum, and I don't see any prospects in that case, except that I don't want to discuss into detail the legalities of the case and all, because it's sub judice, so I might find myself, being in contempt of court and all that. But the horse has already left the stables, and we
it's a done
lose
deal
it now. Yes, right.
You've lost it.
I don't. You see, that case, for example, is to keep up the hope and to let the rank and file know that we are doing something to still oppose. But that fight is over. That fight against the e-levy is over, unless when we come back to power, we reassess the tax measure and do something about it. But for now, to say that we will adopt litigation to unwind what has been done is a tall order.
So let's talk about, as we wrap up this conversation, about your reorganization. You say that the grassroots they're not too happy about what's happening at the national front. Yes. For you, critically, just lay it out for us, what does the NDC need to consider at this point to check itself and to ready itself for the 2024 elections, as we wrap up on this conversation?
We need to be more combative. Yes, I remember when the current Speaker of Parliament was in opposition, and he was the leader of the opposition in Parliament. I recall that he put up a very good fight, leading the opposition, even when we had 94 members in Parliament. And you could see the potency. And I want to see that. I want the constitutional mandate of being an opposition party. It's not by default. The Constitution provides for it. So you don't apologize for opposing. You understand? So I want much more aggressiveness in the way we tackle the issues that bother Ghanaians, and make sure that we offer credible and believable solutions to those problems. Yes.
And finally, when will you be making up your mind on running or otherwise on the ticket of the NDC?
Well, if you push me, I would say an 80% chance that I will not, you know. But in politics, you say, you don't say never, you know. So I'll leave that 20%, you know, of the door open, you know, to see what happens. But for now, I think that the mood of the party is not to upset the flow, and we should give the party the chance to get it right or get it wrong, you know.
And what do you think will happen? You may get it wrong in 2024 if you don't upset the system.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that. That's why I said
are you scared of being honest to say, well, I feel John Mahama may not make it in the 2024 election?
No, in politics, there's so much that can happen, you know. So for now, and especially you see the challenges that we are facing, you know, in the country, anything can happen. And he has a chance, I have a chance, everybody has a chance. I just want to be fair to everybody, you know, and not to be too antagonistic. You know, I don't want to point a hand to somebody and say you will not succeed. That's a bad attitude. Yes.
Anyway, we'll see how the reorganization of the party will go, but I'm grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us. Lawyer Elevy joining us here on The Pulse.